Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Mecca of Banter podcast. We got all the fellas here tonight, except for Winks. Winks, we miss you, bro. But you're here in spirit, peace, and love, man. We got a juicy episode for you guys. We're going to break down club by club our grade, essentially, of how we did this year, player of the year, flop of the year, all that stuff. And then we will break down as a group the Premier League team of the season, player of the season, and all that shebang. So we're going to start it off here with just a congratulations to all you guys, minus the Chelsea fans because your season was shit. But congratulations to all you guys on a great year, man. You know, it was fun sitting up,
Well, that's
watching
cheesy as hell.
Prem. Sheesh, man. You know, it was fun going to Amsterdam with the fellas watching Supreme. I'll tell you that right now. That was fun.
Would you do go once?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I went like 3 times.
Nothing
hey,
better
you know
than a season in Amsterdam. The one time I get to go.
Hey, the 3 times I went, one of them was a 7-0 win for Liverpool. So, you know, that was a great day in my world. No, but no banner aside, it was a fun year. Alongside the fellas watching the league, we always enjoy it. So we're going to start off with the club breakdown, and we're going to go with Tottenham Hotspur. Mr. Hoove Magoove is going to break this down for us, man. I'm going to slide it over to you.
Yeah, boys. What's up? Happy to be here. Let's just rip this Band-Aid. Yeah. It was.
I feel that all too well.
I know. Yeah, Nick, I knew you would, but it was a tough one. To say it was a shit season would be the half of it. But ultimately, it's kind of the cycle that we've fallen into, and you know, it's just the first time in 14 years that they haven't played in any European competition. So, I mean, if we're going to go for a grade, that's a pretty comfortable F. Like you had one job, and that one job was maybe fourth place. Fourth place was a stretch, I think, at the beginning of the year. I think that's what everyone expected, at least. Like the cycle of Tottenham is hoping you get third or fourth. So that's the expectation. Failed that miserably. And all it took was an Antonio Conte slide and, you know, inner managerial issues and ownership issues. But, you know, there's always next year. We've got Ange Pops the Papa. I don't know how to pronounce his name yet. He was announced this morning that he will be taking the Tottenham job. He was the manager of Celtic that just won the treble in Scotland, which doesn't mean a ton to me considering Steven Gerrard pretty much had an undefeated season like 2 years ago with Rangers. So cool. It seems like he's a good guy. I think there's a lot of things to say about him, but the season review itself, we're going to do a standout player, underperforming player, and then just, the F was that we got that out of the way. But standout player is pretty simple. The guy who scored 30 goals and, you know, in every other Premier League season ever is winning the Golden Boot. And yeah, Harry Kane is just that guy. So that one was pretty easy. I had a backup, and had he not gotten hurt halfway through the year,
yes,
Rodrigo Bentancur was shaping himself up to have an amazing season on an underperforming side and just really be the glue. And you can tell, as soon as he went out, the slide of Tottenham was immense, where all of a sudden banking on Højbjerg and Skip in a double pivot because Basuma had been hurt, and, you know, Pap Sarr, I think, is promising, but just so young to be able to carry that pressure through the middle. So I would have loved to see a full season of Rodrigo, and I eagerly await his return next year.
Harry Kane's 30-goal season, like it's funny. I feel like that's so unnoticed. Like you just said that, and I was like, wait a second. And also, like when going through stats today, because obviously I was preparing for this episode, and like I was looking at players who scored more goals than Chelsea this season, which is laughable. And Harry Kane was almost one of them. So like seeing that, I was like, dang, he like low key had an incredible season, and I feel like no one's really talking about it. So you brought up.
Yeah, it's crazy how overshadowed he's been by everything, and just the fact that Tottenham suck. Like you scored 30 goals on a shitty team. That's super cool. Don't get me wrong, but we finished 8th or 9th. I don't even know. I've completely forgotten the end of the season.
8th.
So cool. But yeah, that it's shaping up more and more. It's for me to be like, I just hope to God he goes to Real Madrid. We can retain something.
Wow.
Because if he doesn't sign a new contract, this is his last year, so he could realistically walk on a free next year, and then at that point, you're letting one of maybe the best English striker of all time walk for free. Like it
Bro,
doesn't matter what
Levy's gonna
you
botch
need.
it somehow. He's gonna botch
Yeah.
it somehow. I do think best case scenario, you're right, is him at Madrid, because I think the negotiations with Premier League clubs will not go over easy, and he goes to Madrid. I feel like that's just best case scenario for both parties.
I think I think you accept a pretty high bid from a team outside of the
100
Premier
mil.
League.
100 mil is easy.
Easy, yeah, and I think that was his original intent was, 120 mil minimum for a Premier League club, but something in the realm of 100 elsewhere. That makes a lot of sense to me. If Kai Havertz is about to go to Madrid for what, 70?
Yeah, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, you talk about a fucked up market. Harry Kane's worth 120 minimum to me, but we love him so much, and you owe him so much as a Spurs fan that it's hard to want to just handcuff him. We all know, the legacy he's had, the legacy he could have. If he leaves, he's gonna have a legacy if he stays too. But people are going to question his decision making for the rest of time. And, I want him to be revered as one of the best strikers ever, and not the guy who left Spurs and didn't leave Spurs and didn't win anything. So there's an empathy that I think a lot of Spurs fans have that, that if that's what he wants, that's what he wants. I wouldn't want to play in a Daniel Levy football club either, especially with everything that he's given them and had nothing in return. So, my underwhelming players are Charleston. I think that's pretty easy. I still am not gonna, beat the drum of it was 60 million waste. I think the idea in bringing him in was good. The way they used him was just not ever comfortable for him. So I think if Harry Kane's not playing striker every day, or Charleston's scoring 10, maybe 12 goals. It's not a spectacular season or anything by any means, but to have more minutes as a 9 and play the position that he likes to play, it just, he was a flop. I'm everyone comfortable saying that, but I think there's a world where he does a lot better. I also saw the stat as damning as hell, but if we didn't score every single one of Harry Kane's goals, Spurs would have finished 17th. Woo. So, given again, Sonny steps up more, Richie's playing through the middle. It's not like we would have not just scored any of those goals, but that's a pretty big number to make up. So it's got to come from somewhere. And if next year it's Richie, then you put your chips on him. But the future's bleak, lads. I don't have a ton of great outlook for any of this. We do have a manager. He's going to have an entire summer, which is cool. Ange starts with a P, is Australian. The videos I've seen, he seems like, and I said this in the group chat earlier, he's like the first manager in a while, I guess, that isn't protecting a legacy or trying to build a legacy or trying to hold some grandiose view of themselves. And that may be really positive, I think, for Spurs. We've got someone who is taking the next step in his career in an appropriate manner and not like picking up this project team or, I can fix them type. He's going to come in and he's just going to immediately start playing a way that he's done for forever. So I think it's underwhelming with the people that were left in the managerial world, like Nagelsmann, Enrique, things like that. But if this is what it is, dude, what do you do? You back him. I've already seen there's been tweets that Daniel Levy's not going to do that. He's already been told to work within his means in the transfer market. So when he's gone in January, we can all circle back to the same daft, bald-headed C-nut, and it's his fault. So, but yeah, disappointing one. Get him next year.
What's your biggest summer need? Like, what if you can only do one thing in the summer? What are you doing?
I think you get Hincape or Kim Jong-il, the Napoli center back.
Mm-hmm.
I think you just need somebody else who's competent enough to play next to Christian Romero, because that the back line's immediately different and better if it's Christian Romero and anyone with some ability. And I said it earlier too, if Davinson Sanchez and Eric Dyer are still in the club come the start of the season, we're looking at the exact same spine of this team that has underperformed for years. So a center back has to be the number one position, but the center back market itself is not easy to navigate. I saw somewhere that they could maybe be taking on Harry Maguire. And truthfully, if that wouldn't be the most Spurs thing that I've ever heard in my entire life, then, I don't
Spurs
know what
pays
would
60
be.
for him.
I don't know what would be.
He's linked to Chelsea as well, so that's fantastic.
Oh my God.
It's not true.
Dude, the GOAT.
100%.
Wait,
not true.
Hoove, straight up, this is not me bantering at all. I'm really surprised that you gave yourself an F.
So in my head, I had a D lined up prior. So, maybe it was a D. I guess F would be relegation, if that's the way we're going to look at it, or maybe like a Chelsea situation.
Yeah, you gave yourself an F, and I had to rethink what the fuck my grade was. So
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, like we have the expectations are so low that it is. It's like you hope for fourth. Like that's literally the cycle that we've been in for the last multiple years.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't get fourth, okay, what's next? Fifth, sixth, whatever. Europa, something. I would call that a B. You're slipping down. No European football, and maybe this is the year that we do the Gooner thing and rebuild or whatever the hell they did. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, what is there to base that off of? So I mean, bottom table, I guess you got to go an F. A D, maybe. Harry Kane had an amazing year. There were moments of really fun football, and Richie's double at Marseille was one of the highlights of my season, or at home against Marseille was one of the highlights of my season. They didn't score another goal for fucking 3 or 4 months. So it was all so choppy and so classic Spurs, unorganized, no sort of momentum ever. So yeah, F is harsh. I
would go D. Like that's what I thought that you were.
Yeah,
that's what I thought that you were going to go with. Like, I think preseason going into it, at least historically for the last couple of years, Spurs has been like on the fringe of like a big four team. There's been teams that have kind of come in and out of that. And so I think that finishing 8th, when you look at it, it's not as bad as it could have been. But it's nothing to celebrate. So I think a D is pretty solid. And then, especially because you throw in Harry Kane's season, which I think is a whole letter grade worth it. And then also there's so much dysfunction behind the club that it's hard to look at the team and to say that like it was their fault all the time, because like there was the mess of the managers all season long. Levy is Levy. It just is what it is. Ryan Mason, ended the season in charge, like just a bunch of crazy shit. So I think, looking at it objectively, I would say D.
But
I
think
with
the
good.
Players,
like it's not good.
No, the players that came in, I was excited. Like even Perisic came in, and there was some momentum in a position that I felt needed to be replaced for the entire year. But then as soon as Conte was gone, that left wing position has morphed into something else, and Perisic started just dropping stinkers. So my what happened as opposed to my hopes, it is a D. Like it couldn't have gotten a whole lot worse, and it was fine until January, and Conte left and things just completely fell out of place. But I'm good with a D. Bring on next year. Woo, so excited. Just not a lot to be hopeful about. But there's a manager in place all summer. He's gonna have a training camp. Good for him. On the Aussie.
So, something that gets me excited about your coach, even though I know nothing about him, is like kind of like Ten Hag when he came from the Eredivisie. So like his recruiting is going to be different than just looking at like Chelsea or just looking at Bayern Munich or just looking at Barcelona. He's going to have a different set of like scouts that they're pulling from different leagues. So it'll be interesting to see the guys that he brings in, if he's allowed to bring in anyone. But I think anytime like a new manager from like kind of like a different background comes in, I'm always excited to see the recruiting. So I think that'll be nice.
That's been some of the talk about him too, and what he has been able to do at Celtic with minimal kind of finances. So apparently he's got a good network around him. The recruitment team is positive. And Spurs have always one of the reasons I pulled Spurs when I was so young to pick them was they did so much with their farm system. They have so many youth players that are really talented that come through the system. And you haven't seen many of those kids recently or even get first team shouts. Like Dane Scarlett's out here bagging goals for England in the U20s and playing decently in the championship and such. So I have to think he's going to lean on the kids a little more, which if this is the year, then that's fine. Lean on the kids. Like there is talent in the youth system that they have. And they've just been so reluctant to use it. So you bank on the recruitment, you bank on his ability to coach up young kids, and you strap in your seatbelt and hope to God that you finish top four.
I think him being appointed was like the nail in the coffin for Harry Kane. It's absolutely like, not that it wouldn't happen anyway. I do think there would have been hope if you bring in a Nagelsmann or you bring in somebody of that stature,
with pedigree,
of pedigree that can convince him to stay. But I think, not saying that Ange won't turn out to be a fantastic coach, because it's very likely, but at the same time, like, he's not somebody that if you're Harry Kane, it's like, hey, we're going to win instantly. He seems like a guy that's like, I'm going to take this on as a project and maybe we'll improve next year. But if not, like, fight for top four, versus like Harry Kane, peak of his powers, probably needs to go win something. And I just think he now knows that his best chance is not with Ange.
Yeah. Conte was the guy that got him to re-sign a 1 year.
Yep.
And that made total sense. That the stars were aligning, and before the season, I was just, or when he came in, it was like, how the hell did we get this guy? And then he very evidently, publicly called out the owner. And guess what happens when you say shit about Daniel Levy?
Get fired.
Yeah, get fired. But
all right, well, there you heard it, my people from Young Goove Hoove. We got an F for Spurs, man.
Did you say your moment of the season? Did you give us a moment?
A little bit. The
City
double over Marseille.
The City win was electric. The first part of the season was really fun. I've forgotten about it. It's been so long, kind of thing.
Genuinely, my moment of the season was Richie scoring against Liverpool, going crazy, then getting scored on. I just think it was like one of the best moments of the entire season.
I loved the Tuchel Conte handshake that was literally feels like 2 years ago. That was so fun. The rare point away at Stamford Bridge for Spurs at the death. That was a good one. That one makes you feel good for sure. And especially when Chelsea were with where they were at, like, why, we thought they were going to be big shit. Yep. Yeah. So that was a huge point, but season full of lows.
It was the downfall.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's slide over to the Chelsea boys, the boys in blue. We got
let's fucking go.
Yes, sir. We got Hapey and Big Daddy James Wind here to break this down. I'm going to sit back and just enjoy the show.
Can't wait.
All right. Which one of you fellas would like to start us off here?
I'll gladly go, Jake, if you want me to. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie. This was the first time as a Chelsea fan that when the final whistle blew at the end of the game, I was very happy that the season was over.
As you can tell by my background, I have the 23-24 Premier League table already up, and we are in 6th. So I am happy because that's probably the highest we will be. As far as a grade for the season, Hoover gave his team an F. So then I have to give us an F-. I also think that this could be arguably one of the worst seasons in Chelsea's history. Some people will talk about relegation when we lost to Middlesbrough and that season and stuff like that. But as far as playing for Chelsea, as a standard or playing for the club or anything like that, it was non-existent this year whatsoever. So I think this is probably the worst season I've ever been a Chelsea fan. You guys are going to make fun of me and say it's not that long, but it was quite embarrassing. Yeah, I mean, I could go on and on about how bad it was. I also think it's quite interesting that people are kind of optimistic about next year as well, saying that we might finish in the Conference League. And to be honest, I'll just be happy that we finish above 12th.
I can't even believe you're saying this right now.
I
can't believe you're saying it either as a Chelsea fan.
Right now, I think Chelsea might be in my top 4 next season.
They're at least in my top 5.
What are we talking about, bro?
I'm praying that happens, but what I've seen this year and the team and the players that we have brought in, and with Poach coming in and wanting to trim the fat immediately, I think it's going to be a little bit till we see a top 4. If I'm being completely honest. The bright, or if I'm going through the list that we have, the player of the season for me is Thiago Silva. And to be fair, like, I shouldn't be saying that for a 40-year-old center back. I mean, yes, he's a Rolls Royce, but he should not be our player of the year with considering all the money we spent and the talent that we have. Besides him, I also was going to give out a shout out to Trevor Chalobah. I don't think he had a great year, but when he played, I thought he brought some fight, and it looked like he was playing for the badge when he was on the pitch. As far as
it's a crazy shout, by the way.
I know
that is an asinine shout. Chalobah was ass all season.
He wasn't ass. He just
was
ass.
He wasn't. He just wasn't that great.
He wasn't great, but he was actually showing some heart when he was playing on the pitch. The flop of the season, I think, is Mudryk. I don't think that's even a question. 100 million. He didn't have any goals, 1 assist. Also, one of the things that kind of blew my mind when trying to prepare for this, looking at our stats, I'm a guy that goes a lot based off of eye test. And also sometimes I like the analytics. Obviously, that's what I do for a living. And boys, guess who our leading assist getter was this season? It was Raheem Sterling. And guess how many he had?
7.
3.
4.
3. 3 assists
Crazy.
for our leading assist getter.
Wow.
Our leading goal scorer was Kai Havertz with 7. I mean, I could go on and on.
Is that in all competitions, or is that just
it's just the Premier League? This is just the Premier League. But like,
by the way, that was more than both of our 9s.
Like it's just insane. And as far as who we need to sign, I think obviously we need a striker immediately. I don't even know about Lukaku. Like, I'm like kind of indifferent about that. I would want to see what Poach would want to do with it. But yeah, I think the only, if I want to give bright spots or optimism with this, I think us signing Enzo Fernandez was huge. And I think with you guys, not you guys, but a lot of the Premier League teams buying for CDMs, I'm happy we got him when we did, because I do think he's a quality player, and I'm hoping Poach sees that and kind of builds something around him. But I also think we're going to be losing a lot of people this summer as well. We have a roster that is so large, it's laughable, and Poach is a man who wants a small team. So he's going to be getting rid of a lot. So Jake, take it over.
I have one thing I want to add before Jake goes. And you talked about a bright spot from Enzo. I also think there wasn't many bright spots from your team, but I think there was a bright spot from your academy, and you guys could chime in, but I think Lewis Hall looks like a player.
So that is a great point, and one thing I actually did want to add as well. I guess I forgot to bring it up. We don't have to spend a shit ton of money on a left back now because Lewis Hall is better than Kooky Dookie by miles. So we don't have to worry about that, which is okay, I guess. We don't have to spend another 100 million.
He's got some quality, man. Like,
yeah,
his passing
absolutely.
range, he's good.
Our youth teams have been doing well and have been doing well for the past couple of years. It's just when we bring them up, we're not even utilizing them as much as we probably should be. Like there's a whole bunch that goes into this season, and I think that goes into us having so many players and so many. Yeah, I don't even know how to go about it.
And part of it too is even when we're using those youth players, we're not playing them in their actual positions. So like Lewis Hall is not a left back. Period. No. He plays CDM every single game for U21s, every single game. And then from there as well, guys like Harvey Vale, you saw him play 2 years ago, got a couple games, all that stuff as a striker. He's a cam, 100%, doesn't do anything else. But again, it's the ever looking for a 9. I think that's the biggest thing for us.
That's insane. You guys had Kai Havertz and played him as a 9 the whole time, and he's not even a 9, or he's not
exactly
even like that.
We agree. You're proving our point.
Exactly.
I know, it's insane.
Got Fofana.
Yeah. Okay. So looking at my grade, starting at the beginning of the year from the end of last year with everything going on with Russia and everything, having to change new ownership, all of that stuff, not sure where we were going to go at the start of this season. Thought we had a really strong team. I'm putting ours as like a D minus. I don't think it's a complete F for us. For me, we didn't get relegated. Relegated is failure for me. Apart from that, it's the worst season that I've seen as a Chelsea fan. Horrible, nothing good to celebrate. Best players, I have 2. One is Silva. It's hard to say that he wasn't. He's the guy that played the most minutes for us and probably did the best at everybody. And the other one was the guy that played some of the least minutes for us, and it was N'Golo Kante. When he was playing, he was by far the best player on the field, without a doubt. As far as best transfers that we had for this year, I have 2, and one of them never played in a Chelsea jersey. So one of them is Enzo, and the other one is Christopher Nkunku. I am so excited to finally have him in a blue jersey. It's going to be so nice next year. I think he's going to be incredibly dynamic. I hope that he brings an actual scoring touch to a non-scoring team.
They're going to play him as a 9.
I don't think they will. From everything that I see is they want to play as a 4-2-3-1 and have him play almost as like a false 9, like 10 almost.
Damn, almost like Kai Havertz, and then you guys didn't.
Yeah, but that's so moving into my summer signings. 2 of my summer signings are actually guys that I hope get sold. As of right now, Kai and Mason are both going to be kind of the steals of the summer for us. At 140 million is what they're priced at right now collectively, which is absurd, which for me is great. That makes up about as much money to sign Harry Kane. So hopefully that ends up with that. The other 2 that I saw floating around a lot is Emi Martinez is one that appears that has a good chance of wearing blue next year. And Moises Caicedo. I know that Arsenal is probably going to have a good chance of signing him as well. But we are, from everything that I've seen, is we're willing to put whatever amount of money down. I think Ugarte would have been awesome for us as well. But I think having realistically Enzo and Caicedo being able to hold it down in the midfield and give Christopher and Nkunku kind of like that 10, be able to kind of what I thought Zhao was going to do for us. So just kind of go and do whatever you want to do. I thought he was going to be much more of that. As far as my top moments, again, I have 2. One was the Tuchel Conte thing. It was so good in the moment. It was so good. And the other one is the last whistle of the year, I think is the other one.
Fantastic.
So
I love
that's
it.
it for me.
Short and sweet. We love it, bro.
Let me ask you guys a question though. And this is no banter. This is extremely genuine. Because we've seen these rumors with Kai and both Mount. And it's not like they're rumored to some shitty club with a shitty manager. Carlo Ancelotti is one of the top managers in all of world football right now. They're linked with Kai Havertz. Mason Mount is linked with wants to be supposedly our top signing of the summer. And Ten Hag has been known to identify talent at his role at Bayern, at his role at Ajax, and now wants him at United. So I guess like, what are your guys' thoughts? Because like, there's just letting those players leave. Because I've read everywhere that like coach doesn't necessarily want Mount to leave. The financial talks are just so far apart. So I'm just curious your guys' thoughts on just because I definitely think there's players in your squad that need to go. I just don't necessarily know if those two are like that would be the top of my list in terms of like biggest problems.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
In
don't.
terms of biggest problems.
No, but you haven't been dogging
Cucurella,
them for
your
all
entire
year.
back four, your
They
entire
are.
midfield,
I
your
agree
entire
with that.
wingers.
I'm talking about you. You're trying to get off topic. I'm talking about you. You've been dogging Kai and Mount for the entire year, saying that they are
season
shit.
Because they were shit the entire season. It's your club is shit, and that's the issue.
So, but do you think they're world-class
Like,
players now? You think they're just going to go to Real Madrid and then they're
Yo, chill on that world-class
What
comment, bro.
What did Kevin De Bruyne do? What did Mo Salah do?
No, I think it's funny. You're saying
you
that
have
it's
two
like
world-class managers that are interested in two players that have been shit this entire season. That's just a fact.
And that you have called shit players before. It's a fact. That's a fact.
They've been shit all season.
And before that, you called them that they were just shit.
Fair. That's 100% fair.
Yeah, thank you. That's all I wanted.
I will admit that Eric Ten Hag and Carlo Ancelotti have better ball knowledge than I do.
Okay.
And they're 100% interested in two players. One is a Chelsea lifer that just wants to leave and
At
not
what?
just leave,
21.
go to a rival.
Yep. That's how bad the state of our club is. I agree.
So that's all I was asking is,
yeah,
how
like,
does that make you feel that you have
does
two
that bother
players that
you?
they're not going to like Brighton? They're taking a step up in their career.
No, absolutely. It's not a great feeling. And like I said, it goes in the theme with our season. I have always thought that Mason Mount was a good player. I've always thought that Kai had it too. And I agree with you. Under our system, they weren't playing well. I was just stating the fact that you guys all called them shit players for a long period of time. But it's not a great feeling.
Rashford gone last year.
It's not a great feeling.
I called him shit all last year because he was shit.
Bro,
it's not a great feeling going to Twitter and seeing Kovacic linked to a good club, Kai linked to a good club, Mason Mount linked to you guys. But like, no, it's not a good feeling as a Chelsea fan. It's not.
Yeah, I think with the group of guys that are more than likely leaving, you even look at like Koulibaly and CP and all those guys, and they're going to big clubs. Like they're not going to teams that don't have a chance to play in the Champions
CP's
League.
Marked with Juve, like
I
big clubs.
think, and it was kind of the same thing that I said all year. Is like I love Mason. He's not doing it this year. He needs to get sat down. I don't think that means go and sell him. Kai Havertz, I said sell him fucking 2 years ago. I had never been a fan. I thought he was overpriced whenever we got him. I never thought that he would fit into the system personally.
So when you guys got him, I thought he was fucking. I thought he was going to be the guy when he was at Leverkusen, bro. I thought he was fucking lit.
I loved him.
I'm ready for that remontada because he is going to ball under Ancelotti, and I don't think it's anything about the managers. Like sometimes a guy just gets stuck in a situation. He's stuck in a situation. Like you can look at like Mo Salah and and Kevin De Bruyne. Like they weren't playing well when they did play at Chelsea. So like it's sometimes you're right. It could be the state of the club. God, I know everything about that. But we're watching like a world where Kai Havertz still may have it, and like Mason Mount still may have it. There's a real chance that they excel just anywhere else, and it's not necessarily due to Chelsea. It's just the wrong situation for the wrong kid at the wrong time. Mason's totally different because he is a lifer and came up through the youth. But I see a world where Kai really, really, really pulls it together elsewhere, and no slight to the club, just it wasn't him. It wasn't for him. He maybe didn't pick up English fast enough and was having issues with teammates. Like there's so many things that we don't know. But damn, that kid could freaking ball at Leverkusen. Ball.
I will say, like, Dobes, you do bring up a good point in saying that, like, we all know that Chelsea does have to slim down. Pochettino's said that he's going to, trim the fat. But I agree with you that Ziyech and Mount probably wouldn't be where I would start. I think that there are bigger issues elsewhere. And, like, I think that Havertz has been a fraud for, like, a while. So I don't think that I'm going to backtrack on that statement. But when I look at your squad, defenders, midfielders, forwards, there are about 5 other players in each one of those positions that I would kick out before I would kick out Mount and Havertz. So I just think
money for, though.
I was gonna say there's
I
a
think,
price point for involved
right.
with those
And
guys.
so
Players
I
that
will
we're
say
selling are players that we can sell.
Yeah, I will say that up until this moment, when Jake, you kind of introed with those 2 players for 140 million, and that would foot the bill for Harry Kane, that would piss me the fuck off if that's what happens, because
That's what,
dude, like I hadn't thought about that though. Like obviously Chelsea spent every dollar that there ever was in the world in January just for them to turn right around, sell 140 million worth of money, and then spend it on Harry Kane. That would piss me off, dude.
The thing is, does Harry Kane want to play in the Champions League?
Yes.
Does he want to play in the best competition in the world? That's, I think, the only thing potentially hindering that reunion. Like, I think Chelsea is in the Champions League right now. Like, I think Kane to Chelsea makes almost too much sense.
It's as if I were Todd Bowley in that group, I don't know that there's any other player that I would gun for harder than anything. Like, to see that I wouldn't say they're wasting time on Caicedo or Ugarte or any of these other midfielders. Like, we have guys that can play in the midfield right now. That is not our top priority. Yes, it is a priority. Like, Conte's contract's done. He might go to Saudi League, whatever.
Yep.
But like, still, there's guys right there. You can put fucking Lewis Hall, who has been one of the best players of the year, especially because like nothing's expected of him. But like, for me to go another summer and not sign a true 9, especially when Harry Kane, this is like Tottenham's time to be able to sell him and actually make money for him. I think if you can sell Kai and Mason in the next week to 2 weeks, I think there is a serious bid for Harry Kane.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the way I look at it is, I think them trying to push Kai onto Real is even better, because like the only other team that's really pushing to buy Harry Kane is Real. So like, if you can push,
they'll get both.
and spend spend $170 million, whatever. But like, you know what I'm saying, is like, if they can give them a discount, whatever, like a Costco fucking Harry Kane and Kai Havertz, and not even say he's on that level, but like, get $140 million of cap space and fucking throw it right at him. Why not?
Chelsea's biggest issue is going to be, they had a war chest in January when no other team had a war chest.
Mm-hmm.
And now they have a summer of every single other team needs players, and basically every other team they're competing with has Champions League football to offer. So like, this is where you're really like United. We've seen it where we have a terrible backroom staff and a terrible recruitment team. It's like, this is where you're going to have to see Bowley, if he's got the right people in place, to work his magic now.
I was going to say, backpacking off of that, the only other good thing that's come out of recently is them announcing that Todd Bowley was not going to be involved with football relationships. So that made me super happy. So
that's huge.
Yeah, that's huge.
Huge. Because I think that was the downfall.
I think that was the downfall.
Yeah, ever since they forced Abramovich to sell.
I think that was a tough look.
We had a great owner
and stuff. Yeah. I think it is tough. Apparently. Yeah, I mean, we'll see.
Well, think about it. We that happens. He comes in. He has Frank. He bottled it. He gets Tuchel completely out. Him and Tuchel don't go and get along well. Then he brings a scapegoat in Graham Potter. And like, I'm hoping that with Poach, he's just completely out of it, and he can let the people that he's put in place to hopefully do their jobs.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, we will see. Well, next, I'm going to talk about Liverpool here, man. You know, and I got quite a bit to say this time, Ben.
Fellas, cheers.
Hey, you know, first thing I'm going to say is this. If I had to give us a grade, you know, me being a teacher and all, I'm going to give us a 79.51. And I'm one of those teachers, I round up. Okay, so I'm going to round us up from a C+ to a B-. All right? I'm going to round us up from a C+ to a B-.
Hold up. Does that take in consideration your your thoughts in preseason? Like your preseason, I think that we're going to finish here, and you think that you got a B- based off of that?
We finished 5th. We got top 5 in the league. I'm not going to go lower than.
Hey, first off, don't say top 5. No one calls it top 5. Don't say top 5. You missed out on top 4.
Yes, we did.
So you're saying that going into this season, when you had the summer signing of Darwin Nunez, and you were like in what title contention last year, you're like, oh, if we finish 5th, that's going to be good.
No, but I think a C+ is an accurate grade. What would you give my team?
Actually, keep talking.
I will
say
C+
sorry.
Is fair. I think C+ is a fair grade. I think
yeah, Henry, I think you're being a bit harsh here. So I think in your mind, it looks like you want to give me a D.
Hey, yo, chill on that, big guy.
Hey, yo.
Hey, get your head out of the gutter. No, it sounds like you want to give Liverpool a D. Is that correct?
Say it, Hen.
Nah, I would say like a C-, maybe just a nailed on C. I think a B-, like you said, is quite generous.
Well, I said C+, but again, I round up. That's what I do. That's my thing. So I'm a 79.51.
Oh, you're a cool teacher.
Yeah, I'm just one of those guys. Okay, but we'll stick with C+, and I'll go through some reasons why. So the first thing, obviously, I think this was a year where issues that should have been addressed about a year or two ago had not been addressed yet, and it came back to bite us in the ass. And that is revamping the midfield. Okay, when you're relying on guys like Oxlade-Chamberlain and Keita and Milner, who's now 37, and Jordan Henderson, who has declined the last 2 seasons, we did not address those issues at all. We didn't sign anybody. We signed some more forwards, and we lost Mane, this and that. The midfield, you guys have played the game for so long, and you guys have a great IQ of the game. You guys understand that if you don't have a midfield in this league, the Premier League, the most physical league in the world, you are not going to have success. And so the fact that these issues were not addressed, it came back to bite us. And I think that now, sadly, you miss out on Champions League. We had the biggest wake-up call you could possibly have. We just bought Alexis McAllister today for $60 million. And
this is Fred. This is McAllister.
Get that shit off your screen, man. Listen. By the way, chat, I made a bet the other night. I was with the fellas here. I had a few.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
dude.
So
you're an idiot.
One part done.
Yeah, Nick hasn't heard this yet.
Listen, hey, all I'm gonna say is these guys were force feeding me Coca-Colas, okay, and I wasn't thinking straight.
That was true.
And I did say that Alexis McAllister would go to Liverpool, win us the league with 10 goals, 10 assists from midfield.
When you
so
do.
Yeah.
Now after your sugar high, do you still agree with that statement?
Well, I can't back out now. I shook off.
I would have taken that bet without the win the league portion, bro. I'm shaking your hand. No sweat.
And mind you, the outcome was like, if he loses the bet, he gets to buy us whatever piece of merchandise we want from our club.
All of us.
Yeah. Well, the guys that he shook with. Yeah.
The guys that were there. Guys that were there. Sorry,
Okay. Touche.
But no, in reality here, I do think McAllister gives us another dynamic piece. Now, is him coming in by himself enough to solve the problems? Absolutely not. We have to get 1 to 2 more midfield players. We have to get dynamism in that midfield, guys that can run, guys that got quality. Like, you look at what Oxlade-Chamberlain's done the last 2 years, the fact that he was playing, like, the dude played like 10 games of Premier League season for the last 2 years, man. Naby Keita, he's more injury prone than
Oxlade-Chamberlain, though, dude. I used to love him.
Dude, as a youngster, he was a baller, but guys like Naby Keita, he's more injury prone than Reece James. That dude was hurt every 2 weeks. So like he never got to shine. And Milner is a freaking grandpa, man. So that's my biggest thing is like they woke up from those problems and now they're having to address them, but obviously it was too late. Now we have to play on Thursdays. Shit, I gotta freaking clear my Thursdays, and that's gonna be hard. But my overall besides midfield depth, I also believe that we need a backup right back. And we have to give Trent some sort of competition to where you push him to become a better player defensively. Now, obviously, he has to fix his game defensively on his own. He's got to get coached well. He has to take ownership and be a better defender. But I want us to get a backup right back to push him and say, look, dude, you are replaceable. If you are playing like shit, we're going to put somebody else in that's going to give us more solidity defensively and help us win games if you're costing us games.
So immediately into the side.
What's up?
So then he's immediately getting put in the side then, right?
Well, no, not necessarily.
Well, you said when Trent's playing like ass defensively, and that happens every game.
Well, so I'm going to start with my underperforming flop of the year, and that is Fabinho.
Ooh,
and I say
shout.
Fabinho because the last 3 years, he was the key cog in our team. When he played, we were unbelievably good defensively. He cleaned everything up, kind of like what Fernandinho did for Manchester City for so many years. And we watched Fernandinho absolutely ball out in this league for 5-6 years in a row at doing the dirty work. And that's what Fabinho did for us. This year, he was absolutely piss poor, like nowhere near the standard. And you could tell the minute his game went to shit, we started looking like shit. So he's my flop of the year. My player of the year, obviously, I told you guys the other night, is Mo Salah. Without Mo Salah, we're probably like Hoop said, they would have been 17th. We probably would have been 16th. You know what I mean? 19 goals, 12 assists. He, again, was phenomenal for us. What more does this guy have to do to help us push for titles? You know, he's been phenomenal ever since he came to the club.
Can I give a shout out?
Sure.
I know that he's not going to be the player of the season. Obviously, Mo Salah is, but I'm so high on that Bajcetic kid. I don't know how he's going to recover from an ACL. You just never know how guys are going to come back from that. But man, he was fucking awesome the first half of this season. He was so good to watch, especially like in the first half when Liverpool was underperforming so much. He was just the bright spot on the team everywhere. And so I'm high on that kid. If he can come back, you know, at 19 years old, coming off an injury like that, that'd be huge.
Absolutely.
Butch or Dubs, I don't know who you are. Hen, you said like they were disappointing, so disappointing in the first half of the season that I think Butchie's grade, that was where my thought came in with his grade. That's reasonable. Like you fail your first 6 tests in the season or in the class, and then you pull your ass out of it with a couple really solid A's, in book sense, that they recovered. I mean,
they did
so well comparatively to some of the rest of and like it was there for their taking. Every other team in that spot, and those spots were just dropping points left and right. But the bounce back, I didn't see it coming. Frankly, I figured they were going to finish just above Chelsea, and we were going to have an awesome, cruise to top whatever the hell you want to call it. But that was my only point on the grade there, I think.
Yeah, no, that's a great shout, Hoove, and I'm actually glad you said that. That I think that's a testament to how good of a coach Jurgen Klopp is, how good of a motivator he is.
Still think he's a bitch, but yeah.
Well, you may not like the guy, but you have to, you, as a coach or a lover of the game, you have to give credit to where it's due. He's a phenomenal coach. I mean, he's won titles everywhere he's been. Look at Dove shrugging his shoulders, bro. You could take Ten Hag's bald ass all day long, bro. I'll stick with Jurgen Klopp.
Happily.
All right. So that's kind of what I've got here for Liverpool. The last thing I'm going to say before I turn it over to the United boys is my biggest moment of the season is obviously the 7-0 win.
Oh, I'm so happy you said that. That makes me so happy.
What else am I? We didn't win a title. We didn't have any other great big moments. Like I'm going to take that.
Bro, I'm going to get you that on a banner to hang in your classroom.
The 7-Up cup.
Yeah, the 7-Up cup, bro.
I will gladly hang that up, bro.
That's so funny.
Will you sign it for me, though? I want your signature on it.
Absolutely.
The rafters.
No, and that's not, there's no banner there. I just think that was a fun game to watch for me. Even though I was watching it with Dobes and Hen.
It's terrible, bro.
Which was like, I think we said this on the pod.
Smiling.
Dude, he couldn't stop smiling, but he was being so polite. Like he wasn't really celebrating.
It made it even worse. I would rather talk shit in my face than like just sit there like so calmly cheesing.
I think my favorite text in our group chat from the season was from Dobes saying, Well, boys, I am literally living my single worst nightmare in Amsterdam pub right now. He's like watching this game in a pub full of Liverpool fans. He's like, worst nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I've got on Liverpool. We'll see what more signings we get this summer in terms of midfield players. We obviously don't need to bring in any forwards. We've got 5 of them. The back line, we're not really losing many guys there. And obviously, in my opinion, we have the best pound for pound goalkeeper in the entire league in Allison. So we don't need to revamp the goalkeeping position. Let's move on. Manchester United. It's been a good year for them. They did bring home a trophy. Their cabinet was getting a little bit dusty, so they had to replenish it there.
Yes, sir.
Dobes and Hen, I'm gonna let you guys break this down, fellas.
Dobes, you want to go ahead?
Sure. I'll start with my season grade. Because I think my season grade, I took into account the on the field as well as the off the field sort of aspects that happened to United this season. I think if you look at the on the field aspects with all of the turmoil that went on off the field, I think you have to give, at least in my opinion, I'm giving us like a B. I think in terms of overall season. Reason being is because, I mean, there's so many positives just to take away from the season. Yes, the trophy is amazing. Ten Hag was sort of the best first season we've seen out of any manager in a long time. We have Pep Guardiola and Man City have 43 wins this year. Manchester United has 41. 28 games unbeaten at home. He's turned Old Trafford into a fortress again. But then you also have to look at what it took sort of for him to get there. You look at preseason when we didn't bring in any signings before preseason started. We started the season with no Ronaldo even in the locker room, with no Casemiro, no Antony, and we got punished for it. And then you bring next. It's all of a sudden we do have this Ronaldo whole saga situation, all of this different stuff going on. Then you have Jadon Sancho, who was just missing in action for 3 months with sort of no plan. Then you look at when Ronaldo does leave, there's sort of no replacement. We replace him on a free with Wout Weghorst. All of this while still playing every 3.5 days and being in a ton of competitions and finishing top 3. I think that's sort of why I have to give it a B. I told you guys from the start of the season.
It's about top 4. Well, those are Hen's words, but I'll go as you go.
Sure, top 4. But you look at sort of my expectations. All I wanted was top 4 and a trophy. Like that, I said that the entire season. Yes, I may have played into the little title hopes a little bit because who doesn't want to dream? But at the same time, my expectations for this season were top 4 and a trophy. And I think with all of the sort of the turmoil that Ten Hag had to deal with off the field, and the fact that we very much probably argue out of the big 6 have the most depleted or weakest squad as a whole. And then you look at, we didn't even have a 9 who scored more than 6 goals the entire season. And then you look at just the sort of whole injury bug that hit us at the wrong time. And yet we still had sort of these big results in big times. So I think overall it's, relative to comparison, it's about exactly kind of what I hoped for, but I still think it's a B because if you look at all the off the field stuff that sort of is the issues with the club, we still don't have an owner to prepare for the summer. We had all of this different stuff, all of these different things that Ten Hag had to work through that only hindered him, and he still got this done. That's why I think giving it a B is definitely a fair grade. In terms of my player of the season, I don't think you guys are going to be too shocked with who I'm going to go with. It's tough in terms of just looking at Casemiro, how important he's been, but he's been a liability. Licha was good for so long, but then again, he got injured and missed the last couple of months of the season. You look at Rashford, who had 30 goals in all competitions. So there's a ton of positivity, but I think the sole most important player in our entire team is Bruno Fernandes. We can all sit here and we can talk about sort of the off the field stuff and on the field, the complaining and the moaning. And I agree with, 99.9% of the things that people say about him. But I think when you look at relative to Manchester United, he never misses a game. He's always available to play any single position off the right, off the left, as a number 8, even as a number 6 at time, as a number 10. And you look at since the 16 and 17 season, he's only missed 12 days. I'm not talking games. I'm talking 12 days. Then
That's
you look
stupid
at just,
impressive. Yeah.
Then you just look at sort of his stats this season. He had 8 assists in the Premier League on an XA or expected assist of 16. Like without a 9, he was expected to have 16 assists, only had 8. Then you look at just sort of the fact of he had the best match rating on FOTMOM for anybody in the entire Premier League at a 7.0, while also playing the most games out of anybody in the Premier League. So I think if you just sort of break down what Bruno Fernandes means, and then you sort of all the statistics and everything are great. And I get why people hate Bruno Fernandes because of the antics, but what he sort of means to that locker room and what he's taken on as a captain, every single player loves him. He's loved by the fans. You can see just how much I defend him. He's also accountable and understands the club's history. Post like after the season, he gave a great speech sort of talking about how like, yeah, it was positives, but like, we're not satisfied. So Bruno Fernandes to me is player of the season. Flop of the season, I think I might be a little bit different than Hen. Obviously the neutral will tell you Anthony. There's a whole bunch of different players that sort of underperformed. De Gea is another one I thought about. But truthfully to me, the one that I was most disappointed about is Tony Martial. Reason being is because going into the season, knowing that we had Ronaldo, I still consistently said that I think Martial should be our number 9. And I think he should be the guy to sort of lead the line. A lot of pressure on his shoulders. And when he is good, he's absolutely fantastic. And I think that's what hurts so much, but only scoring 6 goals total in the Prem and 8 goals as a striker at Manchester United just isn't going to cut it. That just isn't good enough in terms of the standard, the injury record. If you're not, like Ten Hag said towards the end of the season, if you're not available, then you like, what good are you to me? So that I think 100% flop. What are the other ones we're doing?
Biggest summer need and best moment.
Best moment, easy. Anthony against Barcelona for me. You could say winning a trophy and getting the trophy again to me, but I think what that sort of Barcelona game meant, Barcelona at the time had conceded the least amount of goals in all of Europe. We're arguably the best team in Europe. To go down how we did at the Camp Nou, to respond, to go down again at home and to score 2 goals and to respond, that was probably my highlight of the year. And then what was the last one? Biggest summer need?
Summer need.
Fuck, dude. I literally have this one as blank on my piece of paper.
Well, it's gotta be a 9, right? In your eyes.
I do think it has to be a 9. A 9 is definitely the most important, but we just need depth all over the field. Like if you look at the FA Cup final that we really just don't have to touch on, but if you look at the FA Cup final, like we brought on Wout Weghorst and Garnacho, and that was kind of it. Like I'm talking like midfield, that we didn't have any midfield options to bring in to give Fred a chance. Like with Sabitzer hurt, like even wingers, like you just don't necessarily know if you can trust Jadon Sancho or what you're going to get from Anthony. We also need a center back. Like Harry Maguire is hopefully going to leave this summer. Like I would love to bring in like Kim Min-jae is somebody that like we're close to agreeing personal terms on. He was the Serie A defender of the year. But I think you're right, Butch. If I had to pick like biggest need, we need somebody that can come in and fucking score goals. Like we need a serial bagsman that can come in and score 20 to 30 goals for us. And I genuinely think that just that alone can get us back in the title race.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting. You know, I actually didn't hear any of Dobes' thoughts prior to the call. I sent him mine and he said that we disagreed on just about everything. So it's really fascinating watching the same season, talking about it every day and still having differing opinions. I graded the season an A-. And the reason that I say that is last year I'm pretty positive it was like the lowest of lows I've ever had as a United fan. There were times like in college, like post Fergie, that was pretty low as well, like just terrible. But last year was like the worst it could possibly get. I think I've said this on this pod before, and Dobes and I have laughed about it before. Like last year, it was like this really weird, like mental thing about how it was so bad you would watch. And then the moment that you would like turn it off, you would like turn on Goldbridge, because like the only thing worse than watching this downfall of United was watching downfall of United by yourself. So like at least when you turn on Goldbridge, you knew that you had a community.
Jake
that
understands
you could,
our feeling.
Yeah, dude. Like, so like it was so hard to watch last year. And then going into this season, you know, not having the summer budget, not getting the signings that we needed. We chased Frankie de Jong the entire season. I didn't tell you any of you this, but this is real talk. You can check receipts that I have. I made a bet that United would finish bottom 10 like at the beginning of the season, because it was just I had no hope going into the season that we were going to get anything. We chased Frankie de Jong, didn't get him. We didn't have anyone that we needed going into the preseason. We had the same squad that we had last year, and that was terrible. And then I was so high on Ten Hag. Again, we've talked about it on here. Dobes and I have receipts from 2 years ago, now almost 2.5 years ago, where I wanted him the whole time. But getting one manager to change the entire squad, like I just wasn't feeling it. So to have that expectation going into the season, and then when they finished top 4 in the 3rd position with a trophy, doing it in the way that they did, it was great for me. I think the thing that takes it down into the A- was the manner in which we went out of the Europa League. I think that by the end of the season, there were just a couple of different instances where it showed so clearly that we are not a complete team yet. I don't want to, say exactly what Dobe said, but the depth of our team is shocking. The drop off between starters and bench is terrible. Pretty much when you look across the teams in the top 6, top 7, you could argue most teams bench versus ours. It's really hard to look at. So I think Ten Hag did an amazing job in his first season, and especially not to mention not getting backed at all in January to come in and bring guys in. Dobes alluded to the mess off the seat or like off the field. It's just A-, I feel is pretty accurate. Now, with that being said, if this season was an A- and finishing top 4, that means my expectations for the year ahead are quite high. If we have the exact same finish next year of 3rd and a Carabao Cup, that's not going to get an A- for me. The second year into a project does need to be better. So going into like my individual awards here, my player of the season was Lisandro Martinez. I don't disagree in the slightest bit with what Dobe said. It's hard to watch Manchester United and not credit Bruno Fernandes's influence on the team. Granted, we don't get to watch it too much without, because he's only missed those 12 days in the last couple of years. But whenever he's not on the pitch, when he's gotten subbed out late in games or whatever it is, you can see how easily we're impacted by not having Bruno on the pitch. But for me, Lisandro Martinez, and this is really biased as a center back, but Lisandro Martinez came in and took the exact same back line that we had last year. That was just Swiss cheese, and brought passion back into defending, brought passion back into locking down the back. Some of my favorite moments of the entire season were on blocks or getting the ball out for a corner kick and Martinez turning and yelling at the crowd and, chest bumping De Gea, whatever it was. There was just moments within, especially the first half of the season, where you saw guys like Delot, guys like Varane, guys like Shaw, who historically haven't been the most outspoken on the field. They're yelling at the crowd. They're fucking, flexing at every single time they get a block. Like, that is passion that Martinez brought back to that team. Mind you, Varane played in this team last year. He was there. And I think when you put Martinez next to Varane gets to return to those levels that we got to see him at Real Madrid. So when Martinez went out with the injury, super unfortunate. We all saw it. I think that the defense did get a little shaky in that, but you can see so clearly that style of play that Ten Hag wants whenever you see Martinez on the ball, whenever you see him defending. He's my player of the season. I'm super excited for him to come back next year. Hopefully he's fully fit by the beginning of the season, because if not, I agree, Dubs, that we have to get a center back in the offseason. My flop of the season might be a little bit controversial. It's actually Ronaldo for me. I know that he only played half the season. But from the beginning of this season, I think Ronaldo should have been let go in the summer, and that's not necessarily his fault. We don't know fully what happened behind closed doors, but he made it pretty clear that he didn't want to be here. Ten Hag didn't really have a choice because we didn't have a backup 9. Martial was injured. We don't know what we have. You can't really blame him there. But between August and December, November, when he left, I don't think that there was a bigger distraction in the sport of world football than Cristiano Ronaldo. Every single thing was about him, whether he was on the field, off the field. When he was on the field for United or Portugal, he made the team worse. When he was off the field for United or Portugal, he made the team worse. It was just something coming off of the year that he had. I would have loved nothing more than Ronaldo to be like that player that comes off the bench that scores goals in like big moments. And he's loved by the entire fan base for the rest of his life because he knows that he's getting older. He knows he's not the same player. But just the bravado that comes with Cristiano Ronaldo really tarnished the whole first half of the season for me. It was hard watching.
Him leaving saved our season.
It did. Like, I mean,
I was praying for him to stay.
Dude, it's
everything
weird.
in
saved our season.
It's weird to say that, but like, yeah, I don't know. I think that for me was just a huge disappointment for the entire season. Harry Maguire was one that was also up there for me, but like we didn't rate him last year either. We didn't rate him from the beginning.
He's at expectations. Yeah.
And for me, like Harry's role was perfect this season, coming off the bench, playing 5 minutes at the end of the game, whatever. Even when he came in, like still making mistakes, whatever. For an 80 million, yeah, that's not good, but it's not his fault. He was 80 million. He just never needs to be a starter for United ever again. So his role on the bench was great, but Ronaldo's my flop of the season. And then my best moments, I had a couple in things that I'll highlight. Weghorst scoring a goal at home. I think it was in the FA Cup in the rain. He like bashed it in and like ran to the corner and knee slid. It was against like
4-1 too.
Yeah, like a meaningless goal, but like, you know, this guy that just fucking graveyard shift for the last 3 months scores a goal. He's crying in the corner. You can see the fan base just fucking like loving this guy. It was such a good moment. I also had the Antony goal against Barcelona. I was watching that at Amsterdam with Dylan Lee. It was so fucking fun. And when he scored that goal, I screamed so loud. That was one of my favorite moments of the season. And the third one that I'll give was Rashford's goal against City off the Garnacho assist to seal the victory against City, you know, at the home fixture. To have Garnacho make that turn and Rashford just becoming a 9 this season, like I think it was just the perfect moment. And obviously, when you put one up over City, aside from Chelsea, you know who you won against City this year. Butch, I don't know if you won against City this year, but anytime you beat those guys, it's amazing. And that goal was huge. Lastly, biggest summer need. Dobes and I also disagree on this, and I thought a long time about this, and for me, it's a world-class 8. And I
Mason Mount for 68 million.
No, bro. I say world-class, and there's like a couple of people that I would put in that category, and really the only two that I'll focus on is Declan Rice and Frankie de Jong. The reason that I say that is we need depth everywhere, literally everywhere. There is not a single position on the field that I wouldn't take depth. Maybe winger. I think we're fine at winger. But when I think of where the games get won and lost, it's the midfield. And when we drop off from our starting 3 in midfield to our bench, the gap in between those players and our bench midfielders is bigger than any other position on the field. And Casemiro, when he wasn't suspended, was relatively healthy the entire season. Eriksen went through that huge injury. Bruno's super dependable, but you can't bank on the same 3 guys playing every minute of every game and competing for a top 4. So I think for me, if I only have hypothetically 100 million to spend on one person, for me it's an 8 that I'm getting, and figuring out what's going on with Rashford as a 9. And I would even look at Martial. Obviously he's going to be injured a bunch, but then Charlie McNeil in our youth academy. And you're never going to win a league with like a youth academy player leading your line. But to me, like I would rather bolster the center of the park before I get that 9 position.
And I'm going to break some news to you, brother. And I really don't want you to cry. Frankie de Jong is never happening. It is absolutely
never happening.
And I mean, there's like never happening.
I said last year, there's no shot. And every day it was like, man, I really think we're going to get Frankie.
I've given up on it.
I'm
with you on the Declan Rice for sure. I'm just curious your thoughts on like, do you think Declan Rice is worth 100 million?
I was going to say, what do you think you're going to pay for him?
Yeah, like that's my whole thing is I think that there's players around the world that can fill that
Yeah, I get it.
that don't necessarily have English tax. Now, if you said we did have the money, we could also get like a cheaper 9 and a center back, like then I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But I think if we get the other positions, at least in my opinion, then I think your $100 million player has to be like he's coming.
Yeah,
and I think that's
it.
the issue with kind of saving that money for him.
Yeah. I think that's also a little bit of the issue of needing the depth that we need so badly in every position, that when you look at the talent that's required to be at Manchester United, it is all world-class players. And if you want those world-class players in those positions, a lot of them are going to cost that much, and we need all of them. So we're not going to spend that kind of money.
Everyone.
Yeah. And to be fair, like, I agree with you that there's guys all across the world that aren't named Declan Rice that could do that position or do that job really well. I agree. It's just a matter of, are we going to do it? Like, I mean, Caicedo, we could have had Caicedo for 15 million 3 years ago. We said no. We could have had Haaland 4 years ago for 8 million. We said no. Like, the Glazers are still in charge. We still haven't sold anyone. So like the like cycle with the Glazers is like, they do some stupid shit per usual. They spend big money on a player and then they say we're actually really dope, and the fans get all pissed off again and all of that stuff. So it wouldn't shock me if we do try to break the bank for Declan Rice.
I do think that they're at the only stage right now where they want to make this club as valuable as possible, and I think that's the only thing that gives me a little hope that the Glazers will do right by the club, but like I think they're going to sort of do what Ten Hag wants, knowing that they still have the chance, because we know the Glazers may go back for another bid, knowing that Qatar may want more money. Yeah. So I think if at any time they're trying to keep the club as valuable as possible, where in past years, I think that they've sort of been exactly how you're saying, the worst. I think we may have some benefit from that, but then again, like they could just be the dickhead Glazers we've known to love.
If we can find a midfielder that we sign who is like up and coming, 40 million, whoever you want to say that is, as a number 8, I think that would just be a huge signing. I think looking back at this time next year, if we sign someone in that position, if we sign a backup 9, if we sign a backup center back, if we sign everyone in the spine, I think we'll look back at that number 8 position, assuming they turn out good, that they're not like a flop, but like I think we'll look back at that number 8 being like, that's the position that really did it for us.
Fair.
Yeah. Well, there you have it from the United boys. Nice little breakdown of the 2022-2023 season. Fellas, we're going to quickly finish up the Premier League review here. I got 3 questions for you. I'll give you guys, about 30 seconds to think about it if you need to. But Hoove, you are going to be the first one I start with. Okay, so how this is going to work? I'm going to ask you the 3 questions. You can simply say the person and then a little bit of a background as to why you chose them if you want to. Okay, you're going to go back to back to back. Okay, Hoove, your Premier League player of the year, Premier League signing of the year, Premier League coach of the year.
I'm going to take Haaland as a cop-out. I'm going to skip signing while my brain moves in a second. I will go to manager, and I'm comfortable with saying Roberto De Zerbi. I love the guy. And I think what he was able to pull out of his ass at Brighton after Potter left was he didn't even manage the entire season. He's my manager of the year. Like that's so impressive. I think what he was able to pull out, and they're playing in the Europa League for the first time in a billion years because they're Brighton. So definitely, and the way they play too, I could go on and on about the guy. It's so fun to watch. Signing of the season.
And this is hard because a lot of clubs brought in some good players that impacted their club.
I know. I'm trying to think like which of those. I think Lisandro's a good shout. Only because he's off the top of my mind. I think anytime you bring in a center back that can actually literally revamp your back line immediately, it's such an underrated position and importance. So I don't hate that. There's nobody on Chelsea that really comes to mind. I'll stick with that. There wasn't anyone else on my end either that changed the game. And it did just come up quickly here. I am so off guard with this question. So
it's a hard question, bro.
Yeah, I'll rethink that, but I'm good with that right now.
All right, solid answers from the kid Young Goof. We're gonna slide over to Big Daddy James Wine. James, Player of the Year, Signing of the Year, Coach of the Year.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie, I have the same two as Hoof, and I got to think about signing. As far as Player of the Year, it has to be Holland. I think it's hard to say no to that. De Zerbi, man, you couldn't find a more passionate guy and a guy that cares about his system and really able to take over what his team has done. Like, I think that if I could have Chelsea play in any bit of being able to take pressure the way that Brighton does and exploit teams and break them down, like, I don't think there's anybody out there that wouldn't want their team to play that way. I got to think about a signing too. Have to. That caught me so off guard. I was not expecting that.
I had to pull up a list. And I'm
good, bro.
Still good with my answer because I don't think it wasn't Raheem Sterling. It wasn't Jesse Lingard. It still, to me, wasn't Darwin Nunez. I know that. But there were some decent ones.
All right, James, we'll come back to you on the signing of the year. We're going to slide over to Dobes. Dobes, Player of the Year, Signing of the Year, Coach of the Year.
Player of the Year is easy. It's Holland. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind. I do think, truthfully, if we were to say Signing of the Year, I think it's Holland. Like, I mean, 100%. Like, it has to be Holland too.
He came this year.
I'm going to go a little bit different, and I just think because I'm going to go sort of value here in terms of like best actual signing, like we knew what Holland was. I'm going to go Newcastle, and I'm going to go Nick Pope. Nick Pope for 10 million from Burnley. And them having the defensive record that they've had this entire season, being one of the arguably, I think United technically finished with more shutouts, but like the Newcastle finishing top 4, I think is sort of going like not talked about enough in terms of what expectations, what our top 4 predictions were for this season. And Nick Pope for 10 million, arguably probably been the best goalie. I mean, yes, you can say Allison, of course, but in terms of like signing, I think Nick Pope has to be up there. And then for manager with me, De Zerbi is a great one. But I'm going to go Eddie Howe. Again, just the fact of like, yes, he did get backed in the summer. They did make some key signings. But if you still look at the style of football they played when they were at their absolute best, they were a fucking force defensively. They were so sound. Then you tell me that like Toon Army is going to be playing in the Champions League next year. Like, I think they've exceeded all sort of expectations. De Zerbi is definitely, I think, deserving for sure. But I also think that like if Potter would have stayed at Brighton, like I think this Brighton team is probably finishing around where they do. Yes, De Zerbi had played a big part in that, but I'm just going to go Holland, Nick Pope, and then Eddie Howe just to be different.
I like. I'm changing. I'm throwing out an Isak too, just to follow up on
nice.
Newcastle.
Yeah, nice.
And we beat that drum. Like we all saw
yeah, we were huge on it. Yeah,
we were all a high, and I was pissed that nobody else had even taken a look at him because that was what was he 30 mil? That was a steal. Yeah. He was so good, but yeah, I'm switching to Isak for sure.
Yeah, no, that's solid. Henry, Player of the Year, Signing of the Year, Coach of the Year.
I'm going to start off with Coach of the Year. I'm going to go completely different. I'm going, I actually do want to go Ten Hag on this. I won't, but I want to. A 17-point swing from the worst Manchester United side in history to come in, do what he did, steady the ship, like, and to not even be nominated for Coach of the Year, I think is asinine. Ten Hag deserves a huge shout. I agree also, Dobes, on the De Zerbi thing. Really like him. I'm gonna go curveball though. Marco Silva from Fulham. To be a promoted side, to be playing in the top 8 pretty much the entire season, finishing top half of the table. Not only did they survive the drop, which not a lot of newly promoted teams do, they thrived all season. And really, when Tim Ream got injured, 2 months left in the season, that's kind of when their season trailed away. I think that he deserves a load of credit for what he did with those guys. He got the signings right. João Palhinha was like a revolution at the CDM position. Yeah. Willian, maybe it's just a flash in the pan, but he was great. Like, I think that Marco Silva did an incredible job. Player of the season, I'm going Holland. I don't want to, but I just think he is.
You have to.
And
you have
yeah,
to.
like I don't want to. And even though like he did get signed this season, I'm also going to go Lisandro Martinez as the signing of the season, for all the reasons that I gave in like the United thing. So even though Holland did get transferred in this season, I'm just going to switch it up. So Lisandro Martinez as the transfer.
You threw out João Paulinho too, which I think is also
nuts,
a decent shout, just what he was able to accomplish too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll top it off here. Player of the year for me, obviously Holland. Don't need to say much. My signing of the year is Manuel Akanji from Manchester City. I thought he was phenomenal. He came in from Dortmund after 2 bad years and has started 25 out of 29 Premier League games. And obviously Pep Guardiola sees something in him. And I thought he had a fantastic season. He came in and allowed John Stones to play further up the field as a defensive midfielder because they trusted Akanji to get the job done every day. I thought he's been brilliant in the back. I just wanted to be different there. And then my coach of the year, I'm going Unai Emery. He took a relegated.
Somebody's got to say him.
Yeah, he came in and inherited in the relegation zone Aston Villa, almost dead last, and took them to finish 7th. That is unbelievable. Count Dracula strikes again, dude. Unbelievable job by him. But most importantly, I think he got them to start playing like attractive, confident, attacking football. Like you could see just he brought a different mood to Villa Park. You know what I mean? Those are my 3. James,
I do have my signing of the year. Mine is not going to be the best signing of the year. It's going to be my favorite signing of the year, and it's coming from my club and onto another club. And just the timing of events, it has to be the $11.3 million signing of Jorginho.
Yeah, baby.
At the time, they were 11 points clear with a game at hand, and we all know how that ended.
Secret agent,
bro.
Gets his dollar off the books, which I'm happy about. So good with that one.
What a shout.
And also my least favorite / I think the best signing for another team. So the best selling of the season is Mark Cucurella for $68 million is
highway robbery.
Highway robbery, bro. Robbery.
Mm-hmm.
I think what is kind of cool, sort of just like breaking down this whole Premier League season as a whole, is like all of our managers and sort of all of those signings like have legit shouts. So I think if you sort of looked at the last couple of years that have been completely dominated by City, and yes, you can sort of say this one was too, but I feel like this Premier League season more than any had so many different storylines.
Yeah, 100%.
That like every single weekend something was happening, like with Potter leaving, the Chelsea thing going on, like the Ronaldo saga. Like the Premier League right now, I don't want to say it's its best. It's best it's been because City been rolling away with it, but I think we're pretty close to it being just about as entertaining as it's ever been, because I think there's going to be a lot of teams that take a step forward next year.
Yeah, I mean, every weekend was sick. Like, I mean, the storyline every weekend was Ivan Toney going to play this week? We don't know. Is Southampton going to beat Chelsea? Yes. Like, it's just like there were so many great things all season long. I fucking love it.
No, it was a phenomenal year, man. It was fun. Well, Mecca fans, we appreciate you guys listening to this week's episode of the 2022-2023 Premier League review. Even though the Premier League is done, we promise you that we will have plenty of MLS content this summer, as our STL City boys are very close to being top of the league. We are buzzing right now. We will have plenty of STL City content for you in the coming weeks / months. On behalf of all the fellas, we're going to sign it on off. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Cheers.
Yeah, boys.
Cheers, boys.